Okay, so we are now live, and I'm going to make sure that I tweet this out just so people can see this. So I'll have to apologize to people up front. I originally thought that the debate was going to be on my channel, but that was changed at the last second. Literally, I asked him like, "Are you sure you want to do this on yours, or I thought we were going to do it on mine?" Dank said, "No, let's do it on mine." So I was like, "Okay," because he wanted to invite some guy who was the anti. I'm not really sure what his name is, but he was anti in the chat. So he got invited. Mitch got invited, and I'm fine with the way that ultimately the debate turned out because in effect I won technically. Like it wasn't an argument. Like we weren't screaming at each other. There was only one point in time where I was angry at Dank, and it's when I dropped that fact that your country doesn't really seem to give a shit about child rape, and yet here you are lecturing about Loli. And I meant that because it's a true statement about the UK. They don't give a shit, in large effect, about child crime when it's a Muslim doing it. But for the purposes of the technical side of the argument, I am 2-0. 2-0. And you can check the chat. And this is how you know. This is how you know whether you've won or lost the debate. Is you go to the chat and you say, okay, chat, what'd you think? And if the chat says, yeah, I'm not really too sure, this is degenerate, but I got to concede Loli's point, and also I'm going to kill Louis. I think Louis should kill himself, which is what a lot of people are doing right now in Dank's comment section, is they're either conceding to me or they're wishing me death. And that's when I know that I won. I won that debate. I am correct in my argumentation on that topic. So I appreciate the conversation I had with Dank. I'm glad that it wasn't an argument. I'm glad that we actually had a good conversation about that because I like Dank and I respect him a lot. And I want him to do very well for himself, and I appreciate what he does and all that, and appreciate he was willing to talk to me, a nobody. But he's wrong, or was wrong. Anyways, he after he conceded the point, which I'm glad that he did because I want him to be correct by my standard on it when he said that arbitration is pretty much impossible. That is my point. That is my entire point, that arbitration is impossible. There is no fair standard in this. There's no just standard in this. There's no way to make this fair. There's no way to make this actually enforceable. This is just people that have a moral issue with it, but otherwise should allow it to exist and should not be trying to legislate against it because they can't. Once he conceded that point, I'm happy to just say that we agree and that it's over. But if you're going to fucking say shit against me and say whatever you want to about me, go ahead and say all that stupid shit about my personality and whatever else. I won that fucking debate. Fuck you. That's my point. I don't give a shit what anyone has to say so long as I'm right. And I won that argument. I'm the one that came with arguments and got him to concede to me, not the other way around. And the same was for Sargon. And still, right now in Discord, Sargon is pretending as though that he won that argument, that I didn't win. No, in fact, the opposite is true. And you can go by the comment section. Even if it's my own, we can go onto your channel and it'll be the same fucking thing. People conceding to me and wishing me to fucking die. And guess what? By my standard, that's a win. So I have to say that the aftermath of this is, in fact, worse than it was previously, because unlike before, where Sargon and I had a good civil conversation, and in fact, most people were on board for hashing it out, Dank, our debate in that was a little bit too loose. And I think that gives ground for people to suck his dick, and not by his own demand. What he did there was a good civil conversation. We had a good conversation about something that I consider to be worth debating. And the fact that he came out on that, by my standard, completely cool, then that's good. That's how it should have been. That's what I wanted, in effect, was for him and I to see the same thing through the same lens, even if he has a moral problem with it. That's what I wanted, and that's what I got from Dank. We agreed in the end, and that's great. But a bunch of people in his chat, some of whom are just trolls, who I recognize from being in my chat and fucking with me, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to get me to do anything. You're not proving me wrong about anything. You know, I'm not really sure what your aim is. It's not really trolling me. You're not really getting a rise out of me, because what you do when you wish me death, when you say that you wish you could attack me, you wish you could do physical harm to me, you wish I would either kill myself or that you had the capacity to kill me. All that does is mean I am right. I'm right. That's all you do, is that you just put the moral consideration in my position entirely. I don't have to do anything. I could just sit there and you give me the moral impetus to be correct by doing that. So it's I just found it to be funny at the end that that was what there's a decent number of people in the comments afterwards that were doing that, and it's like, okay, you can go ahead and do that. You're not going to really make me scared. You're not really going to get anything out of me outside of just me saying, okay, I guess I won that. Which is what that happened. Is what happened. And unlike Dankula, who went out in a good, like, we just ended the debate because we were done talking and it was a good conversation at the end. We agreed upon a lot of things. What I love is that unlike Dank, who's fine, Sargon is still talking shit. So I'm calling you out by name, Sargon. If you want to fucking debate this again, I'll win that one too. If you aren't satisfied, I'll win the next one too, brother. Like, he's still Sargon is still talking shit. He's still talking shit. He still thinks that that he basically, that I didn't win the debate that we had, which it was. But also that he'll be able to ground me in moral implications, that he's somehow going to get me through moral implications. And it's like, no, you're not going to be consistent in that. Then you're going to be like locking arms with the church and decreeing what is in fact degenerate. You're not going to hold to any real standard. It's just going to be your own personal disposition and conjecture. That is by which you are going to try to win that argument. And it's not going to fucking happen. I'm going to curb stomp you, Carl. So if he wants to, we can have round 2 for that debate. And I'll put Carl away. I will win that debate so badly, I put him away. He will never return. But the reason is that I think why is that he's a father. I think that is blinding him to the issue of the actual argument. I think that's blinding him to understanding what I'm actually arguing. He doesn't seem to be willing to address it by that standard that I'm setting. He wants to create his own and stick by it. So let me check the the thing is, I gotta go eat shortly, so we can't have the debate right now, and I don't have much time tonight. Barrett says, I missed the stream. Was the Foodaboo question addressed? Yeah, it was, but he only took it as a joke. He talked about thinking it was funny. And that didn't really address it. But like I said, it all came down to the issue of regulation. Like, if you want to ban something, if you want to regulate something, you have to basically sign yourself to the regulation of it. And so if it's an issue like theft or murder or any of the many crimes, we're all willing to say, like, yeah, you should police that, you should jail these people, you should do X against them, you should penalize them in X way. And what you have to do is force the issue of, well, you don't like something, do we regulate it? If so, how? And you have to define it. You have to sign your name, your personal philosophy, your personal ethics. You have to sign your name to it. And that's the thing that I got Dank on, to where he just conceded that there is no legitimate arbitration against it. You can set a standard, but you can't actually enforce it. And oftentimes, as we talked about in that, the prosecution of it is actually worse than the so-called crime. And I don't think that that is in any way a defensible position. And as such, he conceded that. And that to me is all I wanted. I either wanted him to stand by what he said originally, which he absolutely did, and that's fine. That's the whole point of, if you're wrong in something or somebody finds you to be wrong about something, you either defend yourself or you just concede that either you don't know or that you're wrong. And that's what he ultimately did in this, and I'm perfectly content with that. I think that him and anyone else that's involved in this should be always err on the side of liberty, even if it's grotesque things you don't like. Always err on the side of liberty. It's not hard to defend something like Lolicon. It isn't. All you have to say is, I'm not fine with you jailing somebody over art. And that's it. That's my position. I've staked it out. It's the hill I'm dying on. You have no defense for what you're calling for in the prosecution of persons based on art. You have nothing. You just have your authoritarian moralizing by a standard in which you will never fairly or equally enforce. Never. Never in a million years will you actually enforce that standard. Never. And it has never happened. That was ultimately the thing that I threw at Sargon, which he never refuted. Was give me an example in history of legislation against art that has ever been fairly enforced. Ever. Give me one example. He couldn't fucking do it. And he never will. You can research it for a week. He won't find one instance ever in the history of any civilization that legislation against art has ever been actually enforced in the way that it was designed to. Never. You will not fucking find it. And that isn't true, like Dank fell apart on by citing DWIs. That is a totally ridiculous standard to set, because DWIs are in fact strictly enforced. I've seen plenty of times where cops have been arrested and prosecuted over DWIs. And if the police are willing to police their own for DWI, they take it seriously. And it is strictly enforced. And there is a standard by which that we can adjudicate based on it. 0.0% of blood alcohol level is legally defined as you driving while intoxicated. You get prosecuted for that standard. That is what I mean by what I say. And at no point has anyone said one thing to me that says that there's actually a standard by which that we can prosecute people for lowly. There is no standard. And whenever people try to get into it, they realize, oh shit, this is all perception based, and they concede my position. There is no beating me on this. I've thought this through, and unlike the people that are not necessarily Dank or Sargon, but there's no one that is willing to actually address me on the things that I'm actually arguing. They're always going for these other issues. They're bringing up other things like, oh, well, what about real pedophiles? And what about real child porn? And what about this? And what about that? And what about, it's like, okay, well, let's just address my standard. Address my standard. Address my argument. Why not try doing that? And that's the thing no one can do. No one has yet done it. Maybe there's somebody that's going to come out of the woodwork and blow me out of the water, but I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting to see someone to come forward and prove me wrong here. Waiting to see it. But otherwise, it's just people trying to shit on me while at the same time just handing me the moral question, like saying like, oh, this is degenerate, this is immoral, I'm going to kill you, by the way. It's like, okay, great. That's great. Thanks for that. Thanks for just handing me the moral consideration. That's fantastic. Joey says Loli is degenerate. Milfs, Ara is the way. I disagree. Loli is a moral good. Rodian says Loli is not the point, controls the point. That ultimately is. It is the point that people keep overlooking. They can't get past the issue of age. The artistic spectrum says, now that you've won the Loli debate, what are you planning to do on the cat girl debate? Well, the cat girl debate, I even brought it up in the thing with Dank, was that the reason why I didn't like Neil Parka or Nico Parka is that the girls in that are in effect slaves, and they aren't intellectually at the same level as humans. They are, by all appearances, more intellectually deficient, which is something we already have laws against, by the way. If they were humans, there will be laws against consent with them. Rosal Him says Discord banned some art I made because they said it was lowly when it obviously wasn't. They're just paranoid. They want to ban it to be sure. Well, that's the thing is, there is no standard that anyone will define. No one's going to agree. There's not two people in the world that will agree on a standard for what lowly is or isn't. Mitch and I actually talked about this afterwards in like the post stream that like, you know, there are a million catalogs that are professionally printed that have kids in swimsuits that all you need to do is cut that image out and put it on a website and people are going to call it child porn. So there is no real way. And this is the thing that Sargon dipped into in Discord. He's like, well, do you think that there's a debate around child porn? It's like, yeah, of course there is. This is the difference between somebody who's read case law and somebody who hasn't. There's an extreme amount of debate between like lolicon, pornography, child porn. Like this is a huge debate because the more simple-minded about this you are, there is no enforceable standard that you're going to be able to create. And then what you do is create a huge Sisyphean bureaucracy that's never going to be effective. Never. You have to be very specific and you have to create a specific objective, or at least the closest to objective standard that you can create that can be actually enforced. If you're ever going to have any kind of legitimate means of regulation, like there is against drunk driving or anything else, you have to come up with legitimate means to standardize a law, to make it enforceable. And with art, that doesn't exist and will never exist. And no one has yet addressed that. Everyone just sidesteps that with me. They never actually take on what I'm saying in that way because they haven't done any reading. They haven't looked up the laws. They haven't read how the court cases. They haven't read through this. They can cite the court cases, but they never explain them. That hasn't happened in either one of these conversations. Nobody's explained anything to do with the actual law, which is what we are in effect talking about. It isn't just whether we find it to be moral or not. It's whether this should be something that is criminalized. And the obvious answer in both instances has been no. And that's why it is, write it up on the chalkboard there, Sargon, 2-0. 2-0 in terms of my arguments with people about this. I've won on both counts. And I don't want this to take over my fucking channel here, but it's annoying to me that people think that like people like they don't understand that this is our foil. Like they don't get it. The whole free speech side of this, they don't understand that this is going to be used against us later. They don't get it. I already made a video pointing that out, that this is a standard that we're going to live or die by. And that down the road, this is going to matter. This is going to come up. This is going to be something that people bring up and harangue us about. And we're going to get fucking murdered if we don't address it right now. People want to pretend as though that this is a totally moot issue and that it isn't going to matter. But it's like, once you actually get past the hate speech issue, you are then going to get to the issue of pornography and obscenity. That is going to be the next thing that you'll have to address. And I don't believe that Dankula or Sargon are prepared for that argument. And I'm not saying that in terms of myself. I'm saying that this is where they're going to stumble, is going to be talking about pornography. Because in the UK, they're trying to legislate against it. And they're not prepared for that argument. Because like I said, as soon as the hate speech shit, if they win on that, then they're going to get freaking leveled when it comes to obscenity. Because they're not prepared for that argument. And I've tried to explain that to both of them, but they don't seem to get it. They don't. They legitimately are so hyper focused on the here and now that they don't actually understand that this is something that's going to come back to get them if they aren't prepared for it. We're already finished in the UK. I don't think so. I think you guys can come back, but it requires people doing what I'm doing, engaging in these arguments and defending something that people find to be taboo. You're never going to solve this issue by everyone fucking stumbling around and pretending that they have to protect people's sensibilities about things that are utterly innocuous, like drawings. It's totally ridiculous to me that there's so much haranguing about this when Chase Faces is missed the Dankula debate. I think Dankula up. I'll try to have to find his. He puts all of his debates apparently on his third channel to avoid strikes. And I warned him before we did this that I wanted to do this on my channel because I thought that his channel was going to get flagged, because my channel actually got flagged yesterday by certain people who I'm not going to name. But there are certain people very upset with Sargon right now, and they came to my channel and they flagged one of my videos. But I told him that like these people are on the prowl right now and that he should probably think about doing it on mine, but he insisted on doing it in his. So I understand that he's trying to get that on a secondary channel now to avoid that issue. I'll be honest, I enjoyed Sargon and you debating more than this one, and not that I hated it. It just find it lacking and you more feeling. Hope you have another debate with Sargon in the future. Well, it's up to him. I've already challenged him. I've already thrown down the gauntlet, so to say, okay, let's go round 2. If you think you're going to beat my ass again, like, okay, let's do it. And if you want to make it a harder debate, like, I'll be harsher about like the argument, because I definitely held back in the first argument and people realized that. And it's like, if I really wanted to, I can be harsh about this and still win the argument. Because these people are creating standards that can be used against them and that they can't actually defend. Knowing their principles and knowing their actual philosophy on it, I know they can't defend it. So they'll just be creating a rod for me to beat them with. It won't even be anybody else. It'll just be me to beat them with by their own standard that I know they hold to. I'm probably going to have to go here in a minute. I'm waiting for a call, and then I'm going to have to go out and eat. What's funny is that so far, in the debate that I had with Sargon, people were really shitting on him, and I found that to be unfair. But this time around with Dank on his channel, holy shit, is it the opposite this time around? Like I'm like I said, I'm either getting conceded to or I get people like issuing death threats. There was multiple people that basically said they would kill me, and it's like, okay, I'm not really sure how that makes me wrong. So who's next on your list to debate? Sargon deserves to be shit on. I don't know if there's any. Whoa. All right, that was the call I was waiting for. I gotta head out here, but there's no one on my list just yet. Being surprised a shit posting channel is filled with shit posters that don't understand arguments. Yeah, pretty much. That's what I see. Like, I'm not taking any of it seriously. If it was a different instance, maybe I would, but I don't really take it seriously. When on Dank's channel, people are like, "Oh man, hang Louis the second I can." It's just like, well, I don't think that's really something genuinely felt by anyone. Yeah, I mean, banning Loli is just going to be fertile ground for censors. People don't really seem to realize this. They think they think that like what you're like, and I said this during the debate, and I noticed no one fucking contradicted me, that speech is actually less subjective than images. Artwork is actually far more perception based than just speech. And if you think that hate speech is a bad standard, then artistic or if you think hate speech is a bad standard, then artistic regulation is even that much more ridiculous. You're never gonna win. You're never gonna win. Lewis equals Fig Jam. Fuck, I'm good. Just ask me. Fig Jam. I'm not sure what you mean by that, John, but I appreciate the super chat. But yeah, what was also funny in that argument was that I said that if I got jailed on Loli, then I would fight it to the Supreme Court, because I would be willing to do that. And the parallel that I was trying to draw to him is that, this is something that's being done against you by an even more, not by an even more absurd standard, but by an absurd standard. But you don't seem to realize that the standard you're trying to set is even that less enforceable. So if you want to do something, rather than uh, say anything about Dank, I think the argument I think that with Dank is over with. I think we're done with Dank now. Him and I came to an agreement, and that's all I wanted. And I'm glad, because I think that so long as he understands the impossible nature of this and the fact that this is worth debating and defending to some degree, even if he doesn't want to take up the banner, that's fine. I never told him to take up the banner. Just realize that this is covered under what you believe, and he conceded that. Uh, I'm not really sure who else there is to debate on the topic, other than to say, if you're going to do anything for me, go to Sargon, go to Sargon's account, and say to Sargon that if he wants to be intellectually curb stomped, then let's debate again. Let's go round two for our debate, where I will be 3-0. I will have my hat trick of debates, or I will stomp him into oblivion. And if he wants to make it a serious conversation, I will. And he will be defeated. He will be done. I will, like, all the other people that are out there that thought they were going to take down Sargon and haven't because they're spastics. I'll be the one, baby. I'll be the one. I'll be the one to take Sargon down on this. This will be the end of his channel. We'll be on this Loli discussion. Yeah, Loli is the canary. Dank said it. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think he understands now, like, the issue at hand here, that this is going to be the only thing stopping the censors that are out there looking to get everything. That this is the thing that they're going to go after. I think he realizes that. So Dank is fine now. Sargon is the one that is astray. Sargon is the one that hasn't been humbled yet, and he needs to be. Someone needs to. Everyone has failed to humble Sargon, and I will be the one. It'll like people are. I love the capo memes too, and I've thrown him a couple times previously to Sargon that, like, his capo is going to be the one that takes him out, and that's good. That's the truth. But I gotta go. But I appreciate everyone for stopping by. I had a lot of people stopping very suddenly, and I'll try to find the debate to link to everybody, because I know that Dank just took it down because he didn't want to get flagged, and he does this for all his debates. It's not a special case. I'll try to find it and tweet it out to everybody, and all that, so people can find it themselves. And I might clip a couple portions of it just to illustrate my point overall. All right, so I'll let you guys go, and thanks for stopping by.